So we have this really unique ability to imagine something that has never existed and bring it into existence. That is because we are made in the image and likeness of the Creator Himself. I started something called Grace of Belle 7 years ago, and I didn't even know what it was, okay? A horse themed. Hey friends, welcome to Grace of Belle, where beauty meets His grace. I'm Natalie Grace, and whether you are following along on the YouTube channel, the podcast, or on the written blog, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. And today's episode is a special one. Well, they're all special, but this one, I am pulling back the curtain and I am sharing a little bit about the journey of Grace of Belle, from its beginnings to where I am now, the stumbling blocks, the not so graceful start, and the space that it has now transformed into over time. Because if you've been with me since the early days, then you know that this had a very different beginning. It started off as something quite different. But this is really the beginning. This is episode 1 of 2, maybe 3, of a series that I'm creating titled You Were Called to Create. And it is about rejoicing in our small beginnings and embracing imperfect starts. Because I too am in my small beginning. The small beginning of Grace of Belle Reborn, I should say. But I really wanted to create this for anyone who feels this nudge, this stirring in their heart to create something, whether it's opening a business or writing a book or stepping into a new profession or just expressing yourself creatively in whatever capacity. I believe that if it's a persistent nudge and if it's something good, then can I just say that I really do believe that is from God and it's not something to ignore. And we were created to create. We are created in the image and likeness of the Creator Himself. And so it is not just a personality trait, it is not just reserved for inventors and artists. It is for everyone. We're all made to create and to bring good into the world. So that's what we're going to get into today. And I really hope that it inspires you and encourages you. But before we dive in, just a quick note. My book for brides is almost out, and it is called 16 Steps to I Do. Yes, I added one more sneaky step in there after editing. So it was 15 steps, now it's 16 steps with a bonus step, so more like 17. But yeah, it is just my heart on paper for brides, and it is a heart-led guide to planning a wedding with joy, ease, and savings. And I go through personal stories, reflection questions, action steps. There's checklists and some optional templates on Canva if you want them too. So yeah, I really poured a lot of my heart and energy into this project, and I'm just so excited to get it out there and for it to bless brides. So if you are getting married, if you are planning a wedding, or if someone you love is planning a wedding, I would love to add you onto my early readers list and to give you a copy at a special price. Because yeah, I'm just so grateful for anyone to start reading and to collect any feedback and testimonials. So yeah, that's it for my book for brides. But I'm super excited and it should be out soon. And I'll add a link below so you can get some more information and sign up. Okay, so now let's get into this episode. You were created to create and rejoicing in our small beginnings. Let us make man in our image and likeness. Genesis 1:26. This is what God said when He created the world. And do you know what really separates humans from other species? Is not the fact that we are more intelligent and brilliant or skilled and talented. Honestly, you could come up with a number of cases against that, why other species are more superior in that department. So it's not that. It's really two things. One of them is that we have the ability to judge at a higher level of consciousness. We can discern whether something is morally right or wrong, something that is good or bad, a blessing or harmful. We can make those higher level judgments. And on top of that, we have the ability to imagine. We can think of something in our heads that has not existed, and we can bring it into the world. We create. And yes, it's true, like spiders create webs, and bees create honey, and animals do create, but it's within the limits of their instincts, their habitat and instincts. Humans, on the other hand, can imagine some abstract idea and bring it into existence. And so a writer comes up with a story in their mind and births a book. A inventor thinks of some idea, and then it's like a technology used in people's homes and offices. Steve Jobs, he thought of the iPad before people were even using the internet. So we have this really unique ability to imagine something that has never existed and bring it into existence. And that is super cool. And that is because we are made in the image and likeness of the Creator Himself, the one who said, "Let there be light, let there be waters, and every living creature," and then turned to Himself and said, "Let us make man in our image and likeness." And so we can operate from this higher level of judgment, of discerning what is good and bad, and we can create. And I think those two things are together for a reason, because we are called to create good. We are called to bring good into the world and make those discernments of what can you bring, how can you bring value to the world? How can you be a vessel for living water to flow out of you, as Jesus said? And so I truly believe that every one of us has been given gifts, and that it's God's desires to express His goodness through each of us. And so through your voice, your work, your creativity. And this leads me to this story in scripture I want to share. It's the parable of the minas in Luke 19. And maybe you know it, maybe you don't, but I'm just going to kind of do a run through. So the story goes like this. There was once a nobleman, and so he was a man of high status and authority, who was preparing to leave his land to travel. And before going, he called 10 of his servants and gave each of them 1 mina. And a mina is a form of currency. So for simplicity, let's just say he gave each of them $100. And so each servant received the same amount. And the master instructed them to use it, to invest it, to multiply it, to do good with it, to take what they had and make it better. And so when the master returned, 2 of the servants reported back. And they said, "Master, your $100 has turned into 500 more. Master, I've doubled it." And the nobleman was pleased, and he rewarded them, and he gave them even more responsibility and honor. But then one servant came and said, "Master, I was afraid of you. And so I know you're a harsh man, so I hid your money in a cloth. Here it is, it's all here." And this was not what the master wanted. This made him really angry and disappointed, because that wasn't the assignment. The assignment was to do good with what you had. It was not to hold back in fear. And so he ended up taking the one mina from that servant and giving it to the one who earned the most. And so, what is the takeaway in this story? It's that each and every one of us has been given gifts to steward. We all have something. It's not about having all the resources or doing things perfectly and having it all figured out. But we are expected to be good stewards of the gifts that we do have. Whether it's your talent, your time, your influence, your resources, we are to make the most of what we have. And what ends up happening so often is that a lot of us hold back in fear. We fear failure, fear what other people might think, fear of not doing something perfectly, fear of not showing up perfectly, fear of not having enough resources. And so people hold back their gifts. They keep them to themselves. But the only way to fail is to do nothing at all. And so it is not our responsibility to have all the answers, to create something perfect with what we have. All we are expected to do is to show up and offer what we can with what we have. And so God expects that from each of us, to use our gift, to be good stewards of the gifts that He's given us. And we all have something. I recently watched the movie of Cabrini. And if you don't know, Cabrini so her name is Saint Frances Cabrini, and she was the first person to be given the title of saint in America. The first American citizen to be titled a saint. But her story is that she was a Catholic nun who left Italy and moved to New York after witnessing the horrific poverty and inhumane conditions that thousands of Italian immigrant children and their families were living in. Just really awful conditions. And many children were sick and dying. And so she came to New York to start an orphanage, to build a safe home. And so she faced enormous opposition from the government, city officials, even the church itself. There was so much tension. They didn't even want to get too involved in this. And yet, with all the opposition, she refused to back down. She just kept going, kept believing, kept getting in front of the authorities and officials and promoting her and fighting for her cause. And yeah, she just kept believing, kept serving. And what happened is her credibility started getting recognized. She was doing good. People recognized the good. She started getting approval from the government, backings from wealthy investors. And basically, that one mission to New York led to the creation of over 60 institutions, including schools, hospitals, and orphanages across the US, Central and South America, and Europe. That one mission. And that was just one nun who came with a small team of 12 other nuns. They had almost no money, and yet they created this massive, lasting impact. And all just because she nourished this seed that said, no, I'm going to make a difference. And it didn't start with, I'm going to build 60 institutions. It was, I'm going to serve this one community. And then you just see the chain reaction from there. And, granted, we are not all Saint Cabrini. We're not all nuns who are creating from this heroic place of saving lives. That's not really the point. But, when we step forward in faith, no matter how small we think that step is, we have no idea the chain reaction that it can lead to. And, it might just be a nudge to express ourselves, to write, to share an encouraging word, to bake, to bring some beauty into the world. We don't always know where those nudges are going to lead us and what God is trying to build through us, and how those things can just be a stepping stone for the greater thing He's trying to manifest through us. And it might not manifest in tomorrow or a year. It might manifest in 30 years. I think about someone like J.K. Rowling, who years and years before creating Harry Potter, since she was 7 years old, was writing story after story, fiction, scripts, little scenes, nothing that got published before Harry Potter. And yet she wrote a lot. And some people might consider those other manuscripts failures, but it was really just stretching her imagination to one day think of a boy named Harry Potter. It's really unlikely that had she not done all that groundwork before, it's unlikely that she would have woken up one day and said, "Oh, hey, Harry Potter." And yet, that was the thing that led to her breakthrough in her career, her lasting legacy. I mean, no one could have predicted the impact that Harry Potter had on the world. And I believe that it's a very beneficial, positive impact on the world that Harry Potter has had, because there are so many rich lessons and morals in those stories for children and adults. And that was all just from a little story in her head that came from nourishing and feeding her creative desire to write. And so we never know where those things can lead. And then there are so many people, many, many people who are doing good, amazing work. And people don't know their name. Their name is not recognized. They don't have some big platform. And yet they are working quietly and faithfully, and their impact is known above where it matters. People might not know your name, but your impact is known where it matters and to who it matters. There are people walking around who are celebrities in heaven's eyes, and they've got no Instagram account, no big platform. People don't know them, but they are known, because God does not look at outward appearance. He looks at the heart. Samuel 16:7. He's not saying, "Oh wow, look at that person's platform. Look at the influence they have. Look at their numbers. Look at their subscribers." No. No. He's looking at the heart. And what are you doing with the gifts, the time, the talent, the resources that I've given you? What are you doing with it? Okay, now into my own beginnings with Grace of Belle. Honestly, I started something called Grace of Belle 7 years ago, and I didn't even know what it was, okay? A horse-themed drop shipping store. That's where we began. um, I had this desire to create something beautiful, a space that was beautiful and feminine, and I didn't really know what else. I just rolled with it. And my motivations, I wasn't wrong to listen to that desire to create something, but my motivations were not entirely pure. I was really driven by external success and this promise of making sales online and kind of stepping into riding that e-commerce train. And so I went with, all the experts say to pick a niche, and I picked horses because it makes your products easier to target and it's helpful for SEO. And so I was familiar with it. It wasn't totally random, and I believe horses are beautiful and elegant, and it kind of fit. But I narrowed down on a niche really to accomplish. I was thinking more about making sales, um, and so I was more concerned with what I would sell than how I would serve when I first started this. And so I started drop shipping products. And drop shipping is this process where you carry products on your shop, on your online shop, but you don't carry the inventory yourself. Everything is shipped directly from the warehouse, often in China. Um, and so it's low risk and economical because you don't have to stock a bunch of inventory. You don't have to stock a bunch of inventory. It's just shipped directly from the warehouse. Um, and so I tested the waters in drop shipping. And I just want to say, like, I had to go through, like, God allowed me to go through these lessons to chase success so I could learn from it. And what ended up happening is eventually, when I did start selling products, um, I found these pillowcases that actually ended up selling quite well. I have one right here with me. This is a OG Grace of Belle product. Okay, these farmhouse pillowcases, and I really liked them. And they were doing great. They were selling well. But then what I realized once I got past the initial, like, oh, I cracked the code and I actually started selling products and yay, like, once I got past that initial excitement, I started to examine the whole operation a lot more critically. And I started to think about one, it just felt a little bit hollow and transactional. Like, I couldn't really add my personal touch in this. I couldn't really add my own creativity. You know, I felt disconnected from the products because I didn't actually have any relationship with the people at the warehouse who were selling these products. And I just I couldn't see myself scaling this anymore because I felt very disconnected from the operation. Um, and then there was the ethical questions. Like, how did I know for sure that these products were made in an environment that had ethical working conditions? And you know, I, I was supposed to trust that everything was above line, but I didn't really know for sure. Um, I had no personal relationship with these warehouses. I was just selling these products, and I started to wonder if I was unknowingly supporting something that was against my morals and values. And it didn't feel right. Um, and it felt kind of off and icky, and all of those unknowns were just enough for me to shut the process down. I just shut down the drop shipping. No, after not that long, maybe 2 months, um, because I realized that I just wanted something better from this. Like, I may have started with a kind of superficial mindset of wanting to have a successful e-commerce shop and create sales, but the more I poured myself into it, the more I realized that I this is something I cared a lot I cared more about, and I wanted it to be good. And so I just stopped the drop shipping, and I just decided that if I'm going to sell products, I'm going to be more involved in the process. And if it's not me making the products, then I'm at least going to have a personal relationship connection with the people who are making the products. And um, I just wanted it to be more of I wanted to be more part of the whole operation, the whole experience. Um, and so I pivoted and I started to kind of go the more artisan route, and I handmade these watercolor cards that I still sometimes get inquiries about on Etsy. Um, and I partnered or started exploring working with these local creators and one candle maker. And yeah, I learned a lot, and this route just felt more honest, but it was a completely different ball game. Completely different. I was no longer, this was no international e-commerce shop at all. Um, so, eventually as you can imagine, this was not paying the bills. So I needed to get a job. And so I took a 2.5 year break from Grace of Belle. I did not touch the store. And the job that I worked at, I got a marketing position at this small Canadian ethically made skincare company. Products are made right here in Canada. They're also on Shopify. And it was the best thing for me because I got to really get a front row seat at what it takes to build a successful product based business, even a small niche one. Um, the hard work, the devotion, the dedication, and I saw how tirelessly my boss worked and poured herself into this. And these are, in my opinion, top shelf quality products, great products, made with integrity. And even then, it is such a mountain uphill to climb. It is such an uphill climb just to get your products noticed in such a saturated industry, such a saturated market. You are such a small fish in the sea. And that's with good products. That's with a successful business in many retail stores. And it really opened my eyes. It was a really important lesson for me to see and learn how nothing worthwhile comes without a cost. And there's no such thing as a fast track or a quick, easy way to make money. There's just none. Um, you do well when you offer high quality service or product with integrity and consistency. And there's not really a way around it. That's it. And anything less, anytime you're cutting corners, anytime you're, producing less than quality, it's not sustainable. The market is too competitive. You're building your business on hay, not brick. And at this time, especially, it's only gotten more rampant. We see so many people advertising, marketing promises of making easy money with AI and all these kind of just, I don't want to swear, but it's kind of BS ways to make money and to go through these shortcuts. And it's not worth it. All it's doing is distracting you from the real fruit that you're supposed to produce, the real good quality work you're supposed to bring into this world. And so I became a lot more immune to this illusion of easy success and even just chasing after worldly success. It was all just a really good learning opportunity for me. Um, but back to Grace of Belle. I promise this story is almost coming to a close. But all during this time, when I am working at this skincare brand, I'm still getting my Shopify receipts for Grace of Belle, have the store in the domain. And I'm kind of thinking like, okay, I have like a couple blogs on here, like making cookies and my trip to Italy, like some cards. No one's really visiting this shop, like the shop blog. Um, like, do I keep it up? Do I just, stop paying for it? But something just told me to keep hanging on. Something just said, just don't let it go. Just keep just keep it running. Don't let it go. And so fast forward, I end up leaving that job because I get pregnant, I go on maternity leave, and I have a lot more free time. Not in the traditional sense, because, a baby is not really free time, but I had a lot of time to quiet my mind and really think about what I wanted to do. And by now, I'm different. I'm a different person. I'm a mother, which was very transformative. I This was when my faith walk also really started, and I'm growing in God, and I'm reading the Bible, and I feel like my heart is just being completely renewed. Um, and I realized that I still wanted this space. I hadn't really given up this dream to have this space of my own, this um, where I can express myself creatively, and I wanted to write and just kind of pour out my feelings and my heart. And I kind of just realized that I had Grace of Belle still. And it was like I had this platform just waiting for me. And so I decided to write, write on it, and not for SEO, not for trying to get clicks, but just somewhere for me, that if no one else but me and God read it, that would be okay. I just wanted something to have that I could look back on and keep a recording of these things I wanted to write, and maybe something that I could give to my children and their children. And so that was the motivation. It was just something for me. And it's not like I have, this is a very small community. It's no numbers to brag about, but it's real, and it's a success for me because I see the fruit in my life. And whether I hope and I pray that it blesses other people, or else I wouldn't be putting it out there. But whether it blesses one person or 100 people, it's not really my business. I'm just doing what I feel called to step into. And at the very least, it's something that I get to give to my children and maybe even their children. And that is success for me. That's enough. And now to the name, Grace of Belle. And I get asked this a lot. What does Grace of Belle even mean? Which is totally fair. I get it. And what's funny is I didn't even really know what it meant 7 years ago when I picked the name. Okay. My middle name is Grace. And I think along some lines, I thought, okay, it'd be nice to have a part of me, but maybe not all of me, just in case the whole thing flopped. Kidding, but not really. um, but yeah, so my middle name is Grace. So I'm including a part of me. And Belle, I just always really was drawn to the name Belle. It's elegant and feminine. And I just really liked visually the big cursive B. And I don't know, I probably wanted to have a horse one day named Belle. It didn't go much deeper than that. I put the names together and I just really like how it flowed, just spoke to my spirit. I asked my husband's advice and he agreed. It just sounded nice. And I know it was a name with breathing room to possibly develop into something else, which it did. So that's how the name kind of started. And so, flash forward, when I felt like Grace of Belle was being reborn, renewed into what it is today, I kind of asked myself, like, does this now deserve a new name, a fresh start? But then I had this like quiet revelation that it's almost like it was always there, but it was just waiting for me to be ready to receive it. And here it is. Grace is God's greatest gift to us. It is what allows us to experience beauty and joy and forgiveness and everything good through grace. I didn't appreciate my middle name much growing up because I didn't really know what it meant. But I appreciate it because I understand it now. I really do. And Belle in French means beautiful, particularly when referring to a woman. It means a beautiful woman. And I truly believe that a beautiful woman is one who walks knowing she is covered in God's grace. It is one who walks with the awareness of God's grace over her life. And that's the kind of woman I want to be. Someone who recognizes beauty and grace in every corner of my life, in the imperfect, in the messy, in motherhood and marriage and friendship and everything. And I have ways to go. I fall short every day. That is more just a reminder of who I want to become. And so, but I really believe that. I believe that a beautiful woman is one who recognizes the grace over her life, and that's the kind of beauty that goes far beyond external beauty, and it's something that no one, it can't be taken away from you. That is something that lives eternally. It lives beyond external beauty. And so in the context of this blog and podcast, where we explore femininity and motherhood and marriage and wellness and God and faith and all of that, Grace of Belle just makes perfect sense. And it makes me feel like God was always in this and that that name always had its meaning. It was just waiting for me to be ready. And I wouldn't have been ready. I wouldn't have arrived here if I hadn't gone through that whole process, if I hadn't, stepped out in faith, made mistakes, stumbled, gone through those awkward stages. I wouldn't have arrived to what this is. And again, it's not to say I'm up in some shiny place with numbers to brag about. No. But I have something real that I am so happy to pour myself into, to pour my heart into, and to invite others in with me to grow and to connect together and to be to share with people who also want to find beauty and grace in every corner of their life and in their journey. And so that's what this place has become. That's what this is now, the the beautiful feminine space that I had dreamed of from the beginning. It just arrived in a different package, and it is still becoming. But I'm definitely standing on much firmer grounds now that this is Grace of Belle reborn. So that's my story, you guys. That's the Grace of Belle journey. And so thank you for being here. The Grace of Belle podcast, where life and beauty meet His grace. And I'm so grateful for every person who is here listening to this. I'm so grateful you're here. Um, I love to connect with you. I'd love to hear from you. And I really, really hope that this episode inspired you or encouraged you in some way to get out and to create and share your gifts with the world. You know, don't be like that servant who held back in fear of what other people think, fear of not showing up perfectly, fear of not having enough resources. You have enough. Believe me, you have everything you need to start. And so, thank you so much for being here. Um, I will see you guys next time. I will see you for the next episode of You Were Created to Create. Okay. Thank you so much. Go in grace, go create. I'm proud of that line. Go in grace, go create. Okay. All right. God bless you guys. Thank you. Love you.